Welcome back to Anna Wolf in the Cabin. And if you've landed here, well, it's no mistake. Today we're opening up a conversation that so many women wish they had sooner. An honest, tender, and expert look into ADHD and how it shows up in women. From the masks we wear to the chaos we manage in silence. This episode is here to shed light, compassion, and most importantly, empowerment. My guest today is someone who does exactly that. Karla Pretorius. She's a trailblazer in the neurodivergence space, and today we dive deep. Welcome to the show, Karla.
Thank you so much, Anna. I'm so excited to be here. I love that you said an expert in the field, but I would rather say that I'm a curious clinician. I would say that we're all experts of ourselves and our own neurodivergence. But yes,
I
lovely to
love
be
that.
here.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. All right. So, can you share what first drew you to focusing specifically on how ADHD shows up in women?
Yeah, of course. Okay, so I've been just a little bit of a background. I am a registered psychotherapist. I am a psychologist by trade. I'm busy with my PhD specifically on ADHD in women. Um, I have been in this field now for 21 plus years, in the field of neurodiversity. I started working with kids. And then I branched out and I started working with adults because kids take a lot of energy and adults are a little bit easier, I found. So as the older I get, the less energy I had, I think, and I started working with adults. So then, in my 30s, I'm 40 years old now, but in my 30s, I was diagnosed with ADHD, combined type. So that's the inattentive and hyperactive, but more hyperactive in my mind type. And I think that's when I was like, I want to understand it more. Why didn't I know about this sooner? And everything just started making sense. So I wanted to help women at a younger age see that for themselves.
Wow. Yeah. And also, I think it's important to tell the listener why I almost don't have my presenter cap on because I speak to you. I speak to you probably 5 times a day
Yeah,
right now.
we do talk
So,
often.
so just to give the listener and the viewer, specifically in this episode, because we've decided to do a video and not just an audio, to give you guys more context. So, why I just delved straight into it and completely forgot just to paint a picture a little bit more to what Carla's reputation is all about and her resume, etc., is because, I mean, Carla, must be honest, you've been one of the anchors in my life to just always take me back to my roots and understanding of my own diagnosis. Yeah, so sorry, that's why I kind of went straight into the jugular, First question, here we go.
Yes,
So,
yes, yes.
yeah, so let's go back to that. So, would you say that all of that, especially how you started the show, like describing how you would best describe yourself, or at least prefer to describe yourself, would you say that that's obviously why you got interested in it?
I think specifically ADHD woman, yes. I think also when you're doing a PhD, you want to choose a topic that is highly motivating for you because it's such a strenuous process. So if you want to change the world, wait until you've done your PhD because then you can do shorter projects, right? But if you're doing a PhD, especially if it's a longer process, then choose something that you're highly motivated to do. So for me, that was ADHD because it's something that I experience every day. And I do feel like I'm the expert in my ADHD and how it presents in me because I know the level of anxiety that I go through for anything and everything. So I think if I speak about, let's say, an autism presentation with men, I don't feel like I'm a true expert. I need more recommendations and advice from actually autistic men there. But when I focus on ADHD women, I really connect so well with fellow ADHDers or ADHDers or autistic women as well because I know how it felt like when I was a kid and I went through those different situations and the amount of times that we camouflage and how tiring it is and what we tell ourselves and like you said, you know, you and I share a lot, and I've learned so much from you, and just like changing my narrative into asking myself, like, questioning, is this real, or am I just believing it for that moment, and is it because of my anxiety? So yeah, so many reasons, but I think it is more of a, like, maybe a little bit of a selfish focus because I love ADHD women so much.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. Same page. Why do so many women only get diagnosed later in life?
It's definitely because of our level and our expertise in camouflaging. So we're brought up in a society where women are seen as being more social, and I mean that traces back many millennials, many millennials. I don't know how to say the double the
Millennials of the
yeah, many decades, many
decades
eras.
ago. Yeah.
Years ago, where we are the gatherers and not the hunters, you know? And then if you look at us today, like, we're seen as the social ones, not me, definitely, but the ones in the kitchen, like bringing all the women together. So we're so good at also picking up social cues from other women. So we'll look at another woman, and let's say I'm in a very professional event, I would look at how other people are reacting and even dressed, you know, what they're dressing up as or what they're wearing and so on. And then I would model that. So I would be like, oh, they're not laughing that loud to the jokes, or they're speaking about their interest, or they're speaking about the topic, blah, blah. And then I would camouflage into that role. And as a therapist, this is why many ADHD women or ADHD women are diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, because it seems, or it comes across, that we don't have an identity because we fluctuate so much, which is a very interesting topic in itself, that I'm not going to delve too much into it, because I think that people need to speak to professionals about that. And I don't want to give advice where everybody believes that, oh, that's me. So definitely speak to your therapist, or, you know, me, in a private setting about that.
I can definitely relate to that. It was something I didn't know I was even going through. The being able to almost mirror characters out of films, even giving myself different names.
Yeah,
And luckily I can get away with it. They won't like think that I'm going out of my mind or whatever because I'm an artist. So I
exactly.
kept changing my name.
But this is exactly it, right? The creative part. So we do that, and we have these imaginary friends and imaginary lives, and so many of us go into the creative field because it's okay there. But if you're in academia, like I'm in academia now, where I would say to my professor, I would make like a weird sound, like, "Ugh," and they'll be like, "What's wrong? Like, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Oh no, sorry, I was just like stimming, vocal stimming there. I just needed to like get something out." And it's seen as Carla's looking for attention, and really, I'm not. I'm actually just, I am weirdly wonderful, and I love that about myself. But I can't always be like that in certain areas or certain environments, I guess. So we camouflage, we mask, and it's super draining. I mean, if you think about like the amount of times where you just feel like, I'm gonna keep it together, keep it together, keep it together, keep it together, and then I go home and I'm just like exhausted. That's what we do all the time. Men don't do it as often.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's the reason why we get diagnosed later.
yeah.
That's the whole spiel.
I can, yeah, relate to obviously to all of that. I wrote a song about this next question I'm about to ask is like the beating up of oneself. The when the diagnosis is given, and this is obviously in my case, when the diagnosis is given, there's almost like the older part of you that then has to die. So there's the grieving that takes part in all of that. Um, and I wrote a song called, you know, kind of like it's okay. Like you can stop beating yourself up about who you thought you were versus now. So the learning and unlearning of a lot of things. Um, and so I'm just reading my questions here. Um, oh yeah, so because of all the masking and so forth, I think this goes hand in hand with this. Is like a lot of women would then get said, "Well, you're just anxious,
Mm.
you're just lazy, you're so overdramatic." Again, looking for attention. And some of those elements were definitely a lot of my own labels that I would give myself. So again, the unlearning of those traits and inner dialogue of literally bullying myself. Now and again, it still pops up for me, but it's gotten a whole lot better.
Mm.
Um, why? What is the advice you have for women there? Like,
Yes.
what is the advice of that learning and unlearning? How can you best guide yourself in now almost like learning who you are? Like, who am I really? What is my personality then
Mm.
if it wasn't all of those words?
That's such a good question. And I was actually going to mention about the anxiety part because that's usually what we get diagnosed with before ADHD. So I was diagnosed with general anxiety and social anxiety before I was diagnosed with ADHD. And the reason why is because, it pops up like it's kind of like a bucket that once it's filled up, we show signs of like, I can't do this anymore, or snapping behaviors. And then sometimes we are seen as being too sensitive or overly dramatic. And these are the things that are told to us, but nobody knows what's going on behind the scenes. Like inside our bodies, our sensory world is completely collapsing. We feel completely overwhelmed. We've been suppressing for hours, and now we're like, maybe somebody knocks on the door now, and I'm like, what? I'm busy. And it's because I'm stressed because this is a live recording. I need to keep it together. I can't, well, in this I can be a little bit quirky, but usually I need to keep it together. So all of this, I'm like super stressed at the moment, and then I need to now just keep everything contained. And if something is out of the ordinary, then I go overboard, or I'm too sensitive or whatever. So I think the advice is if it's pre-diagnosis, to really be more aware of when you react a certain way and how you react, and then look at like what has just happened before, and then be really, really nice and kind and calm with yourself and say, okay, this is definitely my body telling me something. Um, that's pre-diagnosis. And then post-diagnosis, I would say read up about ADHD, like read up about women's experiences in ADHD. My supervisor, which I'm so excited that she is one of my supervisors, is Dr. Michelle Garnett, and she's in Australia. She's also like a clinician that focuses on ADHD in women. Her readings is amazing. There are a lot of women now coming out on social media that's also just focusing, like somebody like Sav from Color Me Neuro Spicy. She's also good. Like follow the people that you relate to, that's kind of your age group, that goes through the same experiences. I just wanted to mention something else there with the pre and post diagnosis. Oh, I had actually a recording this morning with an OT that creates their own fidgets. It's called Kaiko Fidgets. They're in Australia, and they're amazing because she created it for her son, that's autistic, and then it became this business. And then she's an ADHD woman, right? And she was saying our bodies are always giving us the signs that we're looking for. So if you look at just from a brain base approach, if we're in survival mode, so if our brain stem is activated, we're going to need something that makes us feel safe. We can't push ourselves to then use our prefrontal cortex, which is already an issue for ADHDers because it's the executive functioning part, right? We can't say, no, you're feeling unsafe. You need to learn something from this situation. I hate it when people say, what can you learn? What can you learn? At this moment, nothing. I want to lie under under a blanket, roll myself like a Dorito, and just watch reality shows. And that's fine. So we need to feel safe first. Then we need to go to the limbic system, which is kind of like the emotional part of our brain, and feel loved and connected. So whether that's a dog, a plush toy, if you don't have an animal, a partner, a friend, a phone call to Anna Wolf, because that's what I do. Somebody that can help you feel like you're loved, then you can only go into like the what can I learn? Let's put things in place. So I think it's just important to know how the brain also works and gives you those signs.
Yeah, as a teacher as well, I see that a lot in the kids I work with when they are having a moment of being overstimulated, the room is too loud, movements are too quick, too fast paced. No adult is really seeing what I'm going through, so I'm not feeling seen, I'm not feeling heard. So all of that makes total sense because I think a lot of the times that does work. That step one, step two, that physical touch, feeling safe, and then yeah, just being reiterated that it's a safe environment and that it's okay to come out whenever you're ready, and
Exactly.
taking that pressure off yourself. I think for me, just before I go into this next question, becoming your own best friend, knowledge is power. That's been my journey. Because as much as I enjoy my own time, I do like people, but I'm more on my own than with people. And I like that. But the understanding of what that symbolically was meaning for me was never shown. And I think since my diagnosis, I keep hearing you are steadily becoming your own best friend because we always give and we're empaths. Well, for me, I'm a big empath, so I give and I give to the point of not filling my own cup
Mhm.
and combine that with the diagnosis of ADHD. There is my cortisol levels are spiking. My brain is just so busy. It's a bit like an avalanche. So to on that, like if you're not diagnosed but this conversation really is translating and sitting for you, um then that's what I would say. Going back
Mhm.
to your point, Carla, is like follow people who that what they're saying, they're planting little seeds for you.
Mhm.
Find your tribe, like Caboose always says, find your tribe.
Mhm.
And that's what all these wonderful platforms are giving women in particular.
Mhm.
So how do things like sensory overwhelm or rejection sensitivity dysphoria, RSD, uniquely show up for women? And why are they so often overlooked? Before you answer that one, I'll give the listener a quick story. I did not know anything about RSD. And it's happened to me more than once where I'm not going to go into too much detail, but here's a good example. There was one of the latest things that happened to me. I thought I had the times wrong for a doctor's appointment, and it ended up that it was actually no, the right time, the right date. And I was probably 15 minutes late for the appointment already, but we took the chance to see if the doctor would still see me. But of course, by the time I got to that practice room, I was in tears because I had a total panic attack for thinking that I organized the day so perfectly in order for me to be on time for the appointment, and then ended up not only disappointing myself, but also disappointing the doctor. When in fact, in reality, I got there, the doctor was very understanding and looked at me in the eye as my mascara was running off my face and said, "Do you know what RSD is?" And I looked up and I said, "No." He says it's a common trait with women, ADHD. And then he went into that explaining. So, can you, before we go into that question, can you just explain to people what is RSD? Because I have it in scenarios that you wouldn't even think that it could be that rejection aspect of things. So, yeah, take it away.
Yeah, I think it's such an important trait that we don't put enough attention on, especially clinicians. I'm so happy that he did know and that he was giving you that sense of comfort and just telling you that it's okay. This is a normal thing to go through. It's not nice. Rejection sensitivity dysphoria, or RSD, is when we feel any response or outcome that we didn't anticipate is a sign of what we did wrong. So we're taking and making an outside perspective a personal attack, and we do this automatically because we're so focused on pleasing others. So it's that kind of like people pleasing that we have as ADHD women specifically, or especially. But men can also have this, of course, and other diagnoses also can have RSD, and they do. But with ADHD women, I find it, because you mentioned the highly empathic woman too, because we're so sensitive to other people's feelings and needs, and we want to support them, that anything that is kind of shown as, no, I don't want to have a coffee. we read into it and the spiraling thoughts happen and we're like, oh, but maybe it's because I didn't ask them last week. I should have asked them last week. Why didn't I? I'm such an idiot. Like I can't keep in touch with my friends. They probably don't like me anymore. And it goes on and on and on. And we bring our entire identity becomes part of this one person that said that they can't go for coffee, probably just because they're busy. So it's got so many elements. It's a complicated phenomena. Um, and I can speak to you about it for hours, but just to kind of, just to define it, it's something that we didn't expect. And like you said, it doesn't necessarily need to be a breakup or somebody that says they don't like us. That's an obvious rejection, right? It can just be like you asked me for this podcast and I said, "Oh, I'm super busy this week." And you take that as she not wanting to tell me that she doesn't want to do this. Is it like, oh, Wolf is
Sorry, the
saying
dog
hi.
was stretching behind me. Yeah.
So it could be anything. It could be the way that people respond to you. It could be the way that people don't respond to you. It could be the way that somebody that you know is speaking of you, or somebody in general is speaking of another person, and you are insinuating that they're speaking about you or saying something about your personality. We personalize everything. I could even read a study, and I could feel a slight rise in my RSD, and I would be like, no, let's question that. This is a study done by academics, and they're not speaking to me. So,
Mm,
it's
wow.
we need to kind of just question that the whole time, I think.
Yeah. When I walked into the doctor's room, I immediately thought, "Ah, he's gonna think I'm dumb and I'm
Mm,
disorganized, and no wonder I have ADHD. No wonder, because look at you." And like this inner dialogue, for me, I think the "you are dumb" is one line of a sum up of "you're not good at finishing projects, you don't like reading because you are good at everything but yet good at nothing, you da 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 da." So that is constant rejection of uh my confidence, constant rejection from what I think others will think. And
mm,
yeah, I like what you said there about we can speak about it for so long because there are these incredibly unique ways that it would show up. And I like
mm,
that you use the coffee thing because that
mm,
happens to me. When I ask, "Hey, do you want a cup of coffee?" I mean, just in a natural house setting with the person you're living with, and they go
mm,
no. Immediately, I go into, what do they mean they don't want coffee now? I thought they
mm,
like coffee, and then that's where one can almost uh step back, gain perspective, and go, okay, as you say, a lot of the times for me, it's being tired, overstimulated, I have a lot going on. So in the first place, you don't actually have time to make this coffee. So I
mm.
don't know what your intention is by asking the person if they want coffee or not.
Sometimes it is to prove that they're going to say no. So we need
Yeah.
to keep that in mind too, because you spoke about a few things there. You actually brought in imposter syndrome at the beginning, like when you were saying about, okay, so I'm going to the doctor's office and he's going to think I'm dumb. Why? Because that's what I am thinking my core is sometimes. So it's a little bit of insecurities that are popping up, and I need to prove myself the whole time. I mean, I'm doing a PhD because I want to prove that I'm smart, and I know this, but I know this. So I'm talking about it, and it makes it okay for me. So I can calm my nerves about this. The more honest we are with ourselves, the more okay it becomes and the calmer we can be. Like, okay, so let's say you did ask that person in the house, like, do you want coffee? And they said no. And then even mentioning to yourself, I actually said that because I wanted to see if he's going to say no, because I wanted to prove that there's something wrong with the way that I asked him or whatever. It's all about just like opening it up so that we're not bottling it up. And I know we've spoken about this in the past, you and I, about like those internal dialogues that we have and the things that we don't want to say out loud. We need to say it more out loud. We need to speak to somebody that we trust and say, I did this because this. You're not going to get judged by a person that you absolutely love. I know that if I tell you this is what I just thought and it's something weird, you're not going to be like, oh my word, you're so weird. You're going to be like, oh, nice. Like, this is what I thought when I was a kid. Like, do you want to talk about it or whatever? We just need to be more like freeing about
Yeah.
these things.
Totally. Yeah, transparent. Because at the end of
Mm,
the day, there's no such thing as normal.
mm-mm.
And my weird might be your normal and vice versa.
Yeah.
Okay. So can you speak to the emotional toll of constantly failing at being consistent, especially when society values routine, tidiness, and stillness?
Hmm. Does society though? Like,
Yeah.
that's, I mean, we need to question these things as well. If it wasn't for a bunch of ADHDers, which we're a lot, we're everywhere, the world would be like the Truman Show. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. It would be so boring. So I would say try and embrace that, the little quirkiness. Yes, okay, some people and might value consistency and being able to remember exactly where you put your keys. I mean, that's such a cliche. I don't even like using that. But, like drinking your coffee when you made it, because I have so many empty cups or half full cups of cold coffee, and that's just my thing, and I'm totally fine with it. If I now live with somebody and they have an issue with it, that's their issue. That's their problem. I am okay with it. So try not to take that on. That's their thing. They probably shouldn't be living with you, or they need to, I don't know, have a system in their mind that they don't see your coffee cups or put it somewhere for you nicely. But I think we need to be less of we need to change. And there's obviously a balancing act with anything in life. Somebody said that if you say that life is just, we need to just have a bit of balance, that's a great sentence for any conversation. I think we can have a joke too. There is a bit of a balance that we need to have here where we can say, okay, so let's say I'm at your house and I don't want to leave coffee cups there. Then I can ask you, hey, Anna, can you just tell me when I leave a coffee cup somewhere? Because that's not my safe space, right? It's yours. So I don't want to intrude there. So I don't want to go around making the world into my ADHD heaven, but I need to also know that I am not going to fit in to the Truman Show, and I don't want to. So it's a combination. Become your best friend, like you said. Learn more about your ADHD. Try and optimize it. There are ways, there are a lot of strategies, and then also be okay with your quirks. If it doesn't affect you negatively, then find the people that accept you 100% for who you are, because those that don't, they're not part of your tribe. And what you said earlier about Caboose, it's an app that people can download, caboose.app, Kaboose.app, where we can actually create tribes. And I've created a neurodivergent woman tribe on Caboose where we just vent. And we're like, oh my word, I can't believe somebody is pushing me to have kids. I don't want to have kids. I'm a woman, and yes, that's probably like seen as, our one of our roles, but they're too loud for me. And that's it. Sensory
Yeah.
wise, I can't.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's something that or I don't know, maybe I'm just naive and I haven't done enough research, but like I don't feel like enough women speak about that. I think women, these two things, either the partner wants children, and then that's kind of like the fight, the pull and the push between the two individuals, or age plays a role and timing. But what I don't hear enough of is what you just said, that it could also be a sensory influence. I know personally for me, there's definitely a sensory aspect to that, and why I've chosen to live a life without going down that route. But again, I feel like that's a whole nother book to open for another day. But yeah, okay. So, um, okay, if someone that's listening suspects they have ADHD, but feels overwhelmed by the idea of diagnosis, and also if you're like me who doesn't like labels, such as Karla, I know you feel the same way. But what is the first step? I was going to say here, what is the first gentle step that the person can make?
Mm. I just want to put an anecdote here. I don't dislike labels. I think it is empowering. For me, I'm quite open, and I know you are too, about having ADHD. I think if it becomes a stigma, then yes, definitely. I don't like it when people say, oh, it's because of their ADHD. Then that's not my type of person. If it's somebody here listening that wants to explore or feels, this is the first part. If you've gone through your life feeling that there's something weird, something different. You just don't feel like everything is making sense. You used maybe alcohol or sex or friends or various other things. Maybe it's sports. Maybe you became so obsessed with things or people or places or moving around because you never felt like you belonged. There is a place, there is a community out there for you. That's the first thing that I would say. There are others that think like you and that they're not gonna judge you. That for me, for my clients at least, is the best thing I've heard from them saying to me that they just are so happy that I also go through this as their therapist because they just thought that they're so weird or they don't feel like they belong anywhere. And there are so many of us out there. So I would say the biggest and the best, gentlest way to start communicating this is find one person that you truly feel like you can trust and use your ADHD intuition there. If it's somebody that you've only met once, that's okay. It doesn't necessarily need to be your partner or your best friend because sometimes we chose those people when we were camouflaging, right? So I did this many years. I would go for a person that I would say, oh, this is a good best friend because they're social and they're pretty and they're, smart and they run three businesses and da 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 da. And then I tell them about my ADHD. They're like, no, you don't have ADHD.
Mm.
That's not the
Yeah.
person that you want to choose, right? Do you want to choose somebody that you can feel, I can say anything to this person. They're not going to judge me. And whoever that is, maybe it's somebody that you've met once. Maybe it's your old neighbor, like next door, elderly neighbor. Sorry, I shouldn't say old. Um, Whoever it is, find that person. Try to just open up gently. Tell them, this is what I'm actually feeling when I'm invited to a birthday party. I go through a roller coaster of emotions. I'm like, oh, I don't want to go. Oh, I don't like people. And then I actually do like people, but then, I'm like, oh, so many new people. Now I need to go there and what am I going to wear? And it's 3 weeks away. It's 3 weeks of stress. And I'm pissed off at the person for inviting me. I'm like, why did they invite me now? I can't say no. When do I reply? All of these things. Open up about those things. Tell the person, like, this is what my body felt like. These are my thoughts. After that, I would say talk about it more, write it down, and then if you want to, start speaking to a therapist or a person like a psychiatrist or someone and explain to them that those things that you wrote down, like your diary, and then just see what they say. It doesn't necessarily need to be a therapist. It could be whoever, like a friend too.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks, Carla. One last question.
Hmm.
I think it's a great way to end off. What's one myth you'd love to permanently debunk when it comes to ADHD in women?
It's a difficult question. I didn't receive these questions beforehand because I chose not to, so I couldn't prepare for a really good, quirky answer here. But I would say that with ADHD women specifically, in comparison with men, that we handle things better because that's the myth, right? Because we don't show it as much. So I think that's just like the comparison with typical, I'm just talking about typical and generalizing here, typical boys with typical girls. We look like we've got it all together because we suppress so much. So the myth busting there would be even if we look like we've got it all together, we go through so much more, actually. Personally, I would say that. I can't say that professionally, but personally, I would say that we go through so much more because we're not acting out, because we're not slapping our friends or running on the roof. We're suppressing. We're like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. Yeah, no, I'm fine. And then the weekend comes and we binge drink because we're overwhelmed. We're overstimulated.
Yeah.
So that would be my one takeaway is that ADHD women go through a lot more than what we think.
Yeah. The visual I got was how many times I've went and done my shopping, and then I see how many plastic bags or brown bags I can carry over my arm because I don't want to do 2 trips from the car to the house.
Hmm.
And then I'm exhausted and physically sore and overwhelmed because I just came out of a massive shopping mall. And
Yeah.
then I walk into the door and sometimes there's no reply of like, hey, can I help you? Or there is, but I go, no, 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 I've got it. And
Mm.
it's not that one would think that you're lying, because you do, you've got it.
Mm.
But what we tend to do is we have more and more moments like that, and then they all become squashed into the sandwich, and then it like combusts
That's-
into letters everywhere, you know?
That is such a
And
good
then we have
analogy.
nervous breakdowns and
Yeah.
breakups
Mm.
and fights, especially over festive seasons and birthdays, etc., because there is this upholding of oneself's identity and being truthful, speaking your discomfort is so
Mm.
important, no matter the outcome. The intention isn't to hurt, the
Mm.
intention is to figure it out,
Mm.
as you said, in the way that you were explaining it.
I really, really love that analogy. I'm actually getting goosebumps when you talk about that because it's such an important thing that we're not doing. We're not saying, no, I'm overwhelmed. It's not your fault, but I took too many bags up, or I'm carrying too much stress on me, or whatever the thing is that we're doing. We're not saying it. And then it does end up being a fight, and they don't know. They think we're sensitive. They think we're overreacting, but they didn't see all of these things that led to it. So yes, for sure, be more open. And if the person is not receptive to it, then it's not the great person to hang around with. I'm not saying break up then, but maybe then it's a good time to speak about like, okay, we need to see if we need to speak about our communication styles.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Are we growing
Mm.
together? Yeah. Carla, what a pleasure. I really hope it was insightful for people. And how can they get hold of you?
So they can just go to my website. It's Karla with a K, Karla, Pretorius, Pretorius.com. Or they can just find me on socials, and my handle is at therapy.neurodivergent. But yeah, usually if they just reach out, I will definitely respond. Thank you so much for having me too. I love these types of conversations. It's obviously my special interest. I can talk about it for hours.
Yeah, me too. Thank you, Carla. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.